BBC's Anbarasan Itarijan reports.
Dozens of workers were in the factory building in the southern state of Telangana when there was an explosion. Parts of the building were reduced to rubble by the blast. Rescuers recovered several bodies from the debris overnight. Many of the workers were migrants from states like Jharkhand, Odisha and Bihar. Some of the wounded are said to be in a critical condition, and reports say several people are still missing. The company that runs the plant says it has halted operations at the site for 3 months. Industrial disasters are common in India, with experts blaming poor planning and lax enforcement of safety rules.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective. The world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe.
There we go. Well, it's 7 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. Good afternoon and welcome to The Upside, your gateway to the good life. African uppity class enjoy our show because it allows them to unwind, relax, settle in, and have conversations that matter. This is Channel Africa's Upside with me, Tebogo Lekhuleni, and I am not alone today for the first time in a long time. Allow me to introduce my amazing co-host. You've heard her on Planting the Seed. She's no stranger on Channel Africa. You've also heard on Hotline, working with our colleague Shayla Ndikumana. She now joins us on The Upside. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, a warm Upside welcome to Mmatsheko Mosito!
Drum rolls and boo boo boo boo!
How are you doing?
Listen, I am so excited. I'm ready to jump out of my skin.
I am so happy to be working with you again. A lot of people may not know this, but we've worked together before when I was sitting in front of the mic and you were behind the mic, and now we are doing it together.
Isn't it just interesting times?
I tell you what, I am excited for this dynamic. I've been optimistic. I've been excited ever since the news dropped.
Yes.
I'm sure you knew obviously before because you know important things like that. I found out last week and I was very excited that I get to work with you again, and it's going to be an exciting show. Thank you so much for joining in and being a part of this new movement.
Thank you, my favorite. I am excited to work with you. And of course, The Upside, as you rightfully say, is just the gateway to all kinds of amazing things. And we're going to traverse through the continent together, and we're going to discover together. And listen, we want to take you on this journey with us. So speaking of this journey, we're going to take with you. What's happening on the show today?
We're talking all things authors, books, documentaries. We start off with a book called A Gift from a Married Man. How about that for a title?
Listen.
A Gift from a Married.
You have my attention.
A heartfelt novel on love, loss, and the quiet danger of chasing appearances. That's the first book we'll be tackling. And then we go behind the scenes of This Is My Story, a documentary tribute to the legacy of South African theatre legend Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. That's coming up in the second hour of the show. And then our final documentary this afternoon is from a comedian by the name of Joe Emilio, who unpacks a story about stolen land. Very apt in this climate that we live in, where land easily gets distributed to the wrong people, and then we end up having conversations about, did that land truly belong to them? Were they forcefully moved? And we'll be talking about a racetrack somewhere there in the Western Cape. So these are the conversations coming up. We've got What Caught Your Eye, of course, later on. And then we get to know you a little bit better and introduce you to the Upsiders on Channel Africa. So it's going to be an exciting show.
Lots of newness to celebrate. We celebrate Independence Day with Ghana today, the 1st of July. We celebrate the 1st of July. We celebrate a new upside. And listen, if it's your birthday or you're celebrating an anniversary, you're welcome here. We celebrate with you. 10 minutes into 1 p.m. Central African time. Welcome to the first hour of the upside with Tebogo, Lekhuleni and Mmatsheko Mosito.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons à présent dérouler notre tapis rouge pour accueillir notre personnalité du jour, l'artiste chanteur Sheki Frey, qui est en ligne de Guinée avec nous.
Je suis un artiste guinéen, un créateur, un styliste et je fais un peu ce qui plaît à mes fans. Voilà, c'est un peu ça. On a beaucoup de genres de trucs à faire, mais bon, pour le moment, on est basé un peu sur le rap.
D'accord. À quelle période de votre vie avez-vous commencé à vous intéresser à la musique, Sheki?
Bon, je crois pas qu'il y ait une période, parce que moi, je suis un mélomane depuis mon petit âge.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Connecting Africa to the world. The Upside with Nompumelelo Ngubeni and Tebogo Lekhuleni. Bringing you Africa's brightest ideas and untold stories. Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa.
Into 1 p.m. in Central African time. Thank you for tuning in. The Upside, as we really traverse through the African continent, I beg your pardon, and bring you all the news, all the good news for the day, really, as we move through just the stories of authorship and people writing books, storytelling. You know, there's just so much happening on the show, but we don't want to tell you everything. See, we want you to stick around and we let the story unfold with you as you tune in. Thank you for listening in. We are streaming actually live on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube space. Just search for Channel Africa. You'll be able to find us there. Channel PAS 10 on satellite across the African region. In Southern Africa, we're on the DSTV Audio Bouquet, Channel 802, and of course, OpenView HD as well, Channel 628. What's happening in this hour?
The joy that I have when you announced all of those streaming platforms, I'm like, yeah, that's my co-host there.
Because there's no excuse, you see. You
I
can
had
find
such pride.
Love
I had such pride. And I love the fact that you didn't mention that song that we were listening to there. Harmonize Nitaupeba.
I don't know what that means. And I don't want to go there.
That's the name of the song. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Let's move away from that very quickly and talk to Lerato, an author. Amazing book that she's just written. It's called A Gift from a Married Man. Now, on the surface, it looks like a dream: luxury bags, weekend getaways, designer perfumes. But behind the gloss, a silent truth is unraveling. In her powerful debut novel, it's called A Gift from a Married Man, Lerato Mulia tells the story of a young woman drawn into a world of sugar-coated seduction, only to discover that every gift comes at a cost. It's a cautionary tale of choices, consequences, and the quiet strength in valuing your own life, even when it doesn't sparkle. Lerato now joins us to reflect on this bold and empathetic journey. Good afternoon to you, Lerato, and welcome to The Upside.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me, guys.
Lerato, first of all, I love your smile. If you haven't seen her, go to our streaming platform at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. What a lovely smile. Lerato, let's talk about this book, A Gift from a Married Man. The title already has me captivated. What is it actually about?
A Gift from a Married Man is about a young girl who wanted a fancy lifestyle that she could not find herself. So she decided to go for a married man. As we know that married men are already established, right? They have businesses, they have money.
Yeah.
And as young girls, we want sparkling things in life. So we go after them so that they can finance our fancy lifestyle.
Is this based on a true story, Lerato? Is it your
Some
own?
part of it,
is it
yes,
your own
that's
personal?
correct.
Is it your own personal journey there?
Some part, it's something that I did in the past.
Lerato's being very close to her chest about the details.
Listen, we're going to get the details out of you. Lerato, Tebogo speaks about your gorgeous smile, and it's because Ngwanyana Wadi dimples. Listen, you come with the beauty. Welcome to the show. Listen, I think Tebogo start in terms of asking you about this title is a great way. It's a great place to start because that already caught our attention. But perhaps let's move a little bit backwards in terms of your story, because as I understand it, you have been on the writing journey since the year 2016, and you have worked in the space of publishing. So I'm very interested to find out about just your view of the world. I mean, that's quite a story, and it's actually more common than we would like to think, around, this girl that really just wants to live the life. And she finds, love and affection in the hands of this man. So talk to us about the building blocks to you starting in 2016 to the subject matters that you write about at this time.
Lerato,
Okay,
before you answer, Lerato, apologies. Before you answer, we have a bill to pay to keep these lights on. So we're going to take a quick breather. When we get back, you'll be able to then answer the question. This is The Upside on Channel Africa.
zochitika ndi madaphiri kamlondola wa zochitika pena paliponse.
Nduna wazamalonda ku Malawi aletsa kampani yopanga shuga ya Ilovo yomwe ndi nthambi ya Ilovo Sugar Group Limited kuti isiye kutumiza shuga kumaiko akunja. Malingana ndi nduna ya zamalonda Vitumbuko Mumba, izi zithandiza kuti shuga yemwe yakusowa pamsika azipezeka. Ndiye pano ndili ndi George Muhangu amene ali mu mzinda wa Blantyre mu dziko la Malawi. Chimene chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndi chani?
Chomwe chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndichonena kuti panopo ili ngati off season ya makampani a Ilovo Sugar Malawi, kunena kuti sakutha kupanga shugayi okwanira chifukwa akukolola. Ndiye akamaliza kukolola pameneno atayambeno sopano kugaya shugayi kuti azipezeka. Chinanso ndichonena kuti ma distributors amene akumakagula shuga kaya ndi ku Ilovo kaya ndi kusalima shuga akumagulisa ku maiko akunja ngati Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Mozambique.
zochitika ndi madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa. We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are The Upside.
I tell you whose side we are taking this afternoon. We are taking Lerato Mulia's side because she wrote an incredible debut. It's called a book. It's called A Gift from a Married Man. And she was about to just let us in on her journey from where it all started to where she is right now, as Mmatsheko had asked her. So, Lerato, the stage is yours. Tell us about your journey.
Okay, thanks for giving me the platform and the stage. I started writing in 2016. I was in grade 10. Then I had to take a break because I was not equipped with knowledge on how to have a finalized book out there. Then I resumed again in 2021 when I started working for a publishing company that equipped me with knowledge on how to do self-publishing. I then left the company so that I can do my own thing. That's when I had my first book published in 2022. A Gift from a Married Man was born then. But so far, it's how I managed, or that's my journey since 2016 till today.
Lerato, and you write about things that we can relate to, and the reason why I was asking earlier if this is your own personal story. Are we seeing, and perhaps even in your own friendship group, Lerato, let's talk about some of what entices the young ladies, maybe friends that you know of, or the people that you're basing this book on. What entices them to this lifestyle when they themselves can achieve it? A bit of work, they can do these things themselves. What is it about this lifestyle that you think is so appealing and then ends up having negative repercussions for those who find themselves in these kinds of relationships, blessee relationships?
Now, the thing is what we see on the social medias. We think that people are having it easily, so we can also do it. We go to these people that seems to have money, but we don't know how their money comes or how they accumulate their wealth. Then we just see ourselves in complicated situation because of our friends. You can have a friend who's from a well family, then there's you have nothing and you want to be like them. So obviously you're going to get pressurized and do things that are not really cool.
Right. Lerato, I'm interested. I want us to stay on the subject matter because it's such a big place to explore, right? And your book actually really takes things to the next level because you look at this blesser-blessee dynamic, but you also look at contentment. You look at themes of gratitude. You look at the dangers of chasing appearances, as it were. So let's talk about how you explored that topic, I think especially from a young woman's perspective.
Well, from my perspective, it's something that got introduced to us. Then we ended up making it a norm that it's okay to have a blazer funding your lifestyle as a young girl, even though it's not okay. Because here's the thing, another thing, it's our parents. Né? I'm just gonna use this scenario where you tell your mom that I'm going to see my boyfriend, or she'll be like, if you come back with nothing, she'll be like, why didn't you bring anything home? You see, that's another effect or a factor that making other girls to end up dating blessers or being with married men so that they can have something to bring back home.
Lerato, how big a role does your friendship circle play in these types of situations? Because if you are exposed to friends that speak up and say, hey, you should not go there. You should not be hanging out with this kind of guy. You can actually do this yourself. How important is that role of a friendship circle or a social circle that can keep you guided and keep you grounded so that you don't open yourself up to the luxuries of a world that is not attainable without a price?
I think to answer that is just, as a person, you should just have friends who are associated with certain life that needs them or inspire them to be independent. Not those friends that will be like, no, let a man do it. That mindset of indora must. It starts there, like indora must. If you have good friends that encourage you to do better, then there's no way you will end up doing that kind of life of where you need to wait for a man to find it. You and your friends will work hard, achieve your goals, then they will inspire you and motivate you to be a better individual by all means.
Right. Okay. A wonderful storyteller this afternoon on The Upside. Lerato Moleya has written a book titled
A Gift from a Married Man.
There we go. And it's a very interesting story. Lerato, you know what I like about your approach in this book is how you have taken this protagonist and not only, you didn't condemn her, you actually gave her story some empathy. Talk to me about why you took that route, because it would have been so easy and you probably would have sold thousands and thousands of copies had you condemned her, had you just made her out to be this character that is worthy of judgment. But instead you took the noble approach to actually make her somebody that we can exercise some empathy towards. Talk to me about why you decided to take that route.
I decided to take that route because I believe that as long as you're still alive, second chances should be endless. You can keep on trying until death. That's how I managed to take that route on my character, so that she keeps on having a second chance at life after she flopped or she did the horrible things. But I still made sure that she survived, get back on her feet, and that's when she noticed that what she was getting from men, it's something that she can do for herself now, because she ended up owning a business. She started from scratch by her side.
I love that. I love the fact that there's a proper silver lining in the story, but also the fact that there is a way out, that does not have to be your reality. You may find yourself in that situation, but you can also get out of it, which is very important to note. Lerato, where can people find this book and show some support?
My book is available online on Amazon. They can just search A Gift from a Married Man. It's just going to appear there. Then we also do direct purchases. They can check me on Facebook at Lerato Moleya.
Amazing. Lerato, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. All the best with the book, and thank you for being honest and yet also showing empathy in this book. A real situation that people find themselves in, and it's one way. It's a certainly negative connotation that it can take when people take it on a specific extreme case, but you are looking at it from an empathetic point of view, allowing people to read it, feel empathetic, and also understand that there is a way out. That is not the only way to experience life, and we thank you for that. All the best with your book. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on The Upside this afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lorato. You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing a sequel. In fact, I'm hearing this book become a trilogy. I'm also hearing it become a film. So it's a big story with so much potentiality, don't you think?
You know what? When I saw the title, A Gift from a Married Man, I was thinking of a different story. So this one is talking about the blesser-blessee relationship. I was thinking of the story of pearls of wisdom from a married man to other men, young men. That's where I was going. So when I saw the title, I was like, maybe a married man is imparting some words of wisdom to the next generation on how to treat your wife, how to
I love that.
raise the kids. That's a proper gift.
There's a book there as well. There definitely is a story there. I hear exactly where you're going with that. But yes, here we are 30 minutes into the show. And of course, it is that time for us to get straight into news headlines. We're also going to check in with econ and sports in a moment.
We're going to start with the sports. It's 30 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. Figile Lingwati is standing by.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon, guys. We begin with Olympic news. South Africa's multinational coded sporting body, SASCOC president Barry Hendricks has confirmed that South Africa's bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games has been put on hold. The National Olympic Body will instead shift its focus to bidding for smaller international events, including World Volleyball Championships, before preparing a bid for the 2040 Olympic Games. South Africa was among 11 countries, including Morocco and Egypt, that had expressed interest in hosting the 2036 Games. But Hendricks says they missed the deadline to submit the necessary bid documents to the IOC. Now, rugby news. The Springboks made the journey from Cape Town to Johannesburg to begin their preparations for the opening match of the Kastanje incoming series against Italy at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria on Saturday. The Boks sustained an injury to Jean Klein in the match against the Barbarians. It's a blow, but not as devastating as it could have been, because the coaching staff have been crafting a fluid succession plan to weather player injuries. Scrum guru Dan Human explains.
I'm not in the medical department yet. I'm a doctor, but a scrum doctor, not a medical doctor, so I'm getting there. But I'm not too sure what's happening exactly. But we're fortunate that we have numbers. We're fortunate we have guys that can play lock as well, like Kobus Visa coming in as well. And I mean, like you all know, Peter Steph can always cover probably all the positions on the field for us.
South African sides have been playing the two Italian clubs in the URC for more than 4 seasons now. Benetton and Zebri are part of the Italian setup and have given forwards like Jan-Hendrik Wessels a proper insight into the Italian style ahead of the weekend.
They feed off their scrums. I think they get a lot of energy of it, and it's a good base for them to play from. And I think they scrum for penalties. They don't scrum to get away from it. And I think end of last year we played them before the November tour of the Box. We played Benetton, and they have a big stat on scrumming long. They want to stay into the scrum, so they're not running away from it. They're up for the fight in the scrum time.
And fans will be allowed to bring bottles of water to the stadium for some of the games at the Women's European Championship, which gets underway on Wednesday, as a heat wave has sent temperatures in Switzerland to over 30 degrees Celsius. European soccer governing body UEFA says the normally strict security rules would be relaxed to allow fans attending matches on the first 2 days, the 2nd and the 3rd of July of Euro 2025, to bring a half-liter plastic or aluminium water bottle into the stadium. No glass bottles will be allowed. The usual conditions attached to Euro 2025 tickets state that no bottles, jugs or cans of any kind, as well as other objects made from plastic, glass or any other fragile materials, may be brought into any of the stadiums, with exceptions made for medical containers. The 4 games that fans will be allowed to bring water bottles to are on the 2nd of July matches: Iceland versus Finland, Switzerland up against Norway, and on the 3rd of July is Belgium taking on Italy, and Spain face off with Portugal. And finally, golf news. Finally, it's Ian Poulter's bid to play his final first Open for 3 years could be thwarted by his son Luke, who is also trying to make it to the championship. Both will be battling the odds in the same qualifying tournament to try to grab one of just a handful of spots at the main event. Either could knock the other out of contention for an open berth. They are among 72 players competing over 2 circuits of Royal Circuit Ports in Kent. This family venture to reach Royal Portrush for the 153rd staging of the golf's oldest major is one of the several enticing storylines from final qualifying. The older Poulter, a Ryder Cup legend, has played in 20 Opens, but none since 2022 when the 49-year-old opted to join the Live Tour. For any sports stories that you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Bana Boy huyo anajulikana kama Damini Ebunoluwa Ogolo, maarufu kama Bana Boy. Alizaliwa Julai 2 mwaka 1991. Ni mwimbaji na mwandishi wa nyimbo kutoka nchini Nigeria. Alipata umaarufu mnamo mwaka 2012 baada ya kutoa wimbo wake wa kwanza kabisa ambao ulijulikana kwa jina la Like to Party kutoka ndani ya studio Live 2013. Mnamo mwaka wa 2017 Bana Boy alisaini na bendi Habit Atlantic Records huko Marekani na One Music Group. Albamu yake ya 3 ya studio ya nje 2018 iliweka alama ya kwanza ya lebo yake. Mnamo mwaka 2019 alishinda sheria ya kimataifa ya bora kabisa kwenye tuzo za BET za 2019. Alitangazwa pia kama msanii wa Apple Music's Up Next.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Broadcasting in 5 different languages, connecting the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective.
36 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. Let's say good afternoon to Buntle Headbush, who has your business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Tebogo, and a very good afternoon to our listeners. In our top business story at this hour, Guinea's exports of bauxite, a feedstock for aluminium, surged 39% to a record 48.6 million metric tons in the first quarter of this year, though regulatory crackdowns sidelined major operators. Most of this bauxite was shipped to China, where aluminium production has recovered. In the first 5 months of the year, China produced 18.59 million tons, a rise of 4% from the same period last year, according to Guinea's Ministry of Mines and Geology. Guinea, the world's second largest bauxite producer, shipped 312 vessels compared to 225 ships carrying 34.9 million tons in the first quarter of 2024. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has opened the country's biggest grid-connected solar power plant built by Power China, which will supply electricity to copper mine First Quantum Minerals. Joey Lekhuleni has more.
The 100-megawatt Chisamba project is expected to reduce the southern African countries' reliance on electricity imports from neighbors South Africa and Mozambique. It will free up capacity for Zambian consumers that would have otherwise been used by First Quantum Minerals. Zambia depends on hydropower for the bulk of its electricity generation needs, and low water levels because of a severe drought have forced state utility ZESCO to ration electricity. Hichilema says that the drought highlights the need to urgently diversify the power mix.
The African Development Bank has approved a loan worth $470 million for South Africa's infrastructure governance and green growth program. The bank says this is an important step in the country's transition towards a sustainable, low-carbon economy. The program is a second phase of the bank's strategic support for South Africa's just energy transition. It also builds on the success of the $300 million Energy Governance and Climate Resilience Program approved in 2023. Kailihle Kumalo has more.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says this initiative will enhance energy security, support a low-carbon, just transition and improve transport efficiency. The minister adds that the African Development Bank's group supports has been valuable. The bank says this approval represents more than financing. It's a blueprint for Africa's energy future and South Africa's success in building a just, green and inclusive energy system demonstrates that sustainable development and economic growth can go hand in hand.
Meanwhile, South Africa's manufacturing sector continues to show signs of strain. According to Absa Bank's Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI, the headline PMI contracted for the 7th consecutive month. The index, which measures the health of the sector, declined by 1.6 points to 43.1 index points in May 2025. The decline is in the Supplier Deliveries Index pushed the headline PMI lower. Notando Makudulele reports.
Absa says the manufacturing sector continued to suffer in May despite some flickers of activity and demand improvement, albeit at extremely low levels. However, the improvement in orders and activity provides some optimism for recovery. This is due to domestic demand recovering slightly as export sales continue to deteriorate at a rapid rate. At the same time, the index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months' time increased in May due to improved sentiment as global tariffs were suspended.
South Africa has asked for more time to negotiate a trade deal with the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration before his higher tariff regime goes into effect on July 9. Trump imposed a 31% tax on U.S. imports from South Africa in April as part of his global reciprocal tariffs before pausing their application for 90 days to allow for negotiations. South Africa's Trade Ministry says the country aims to secure a trade deal that will exempt some of its key exports from the tariffs, including autos, auto parts, steel and aluminium. It has offered to buy liquefied natural gas from the United States in exchange. It's also seeking a maximum tariff application of 10% as a worst-case scenario. The US is South Africa's second largest bilateral trading partner after China. And now for a look at our financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 537. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 21. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49, and in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 79. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 46. Russia, 78 rubles 16. In India, it's 85 rupees 62. China, 7 yuan 16. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 74 cents. $1 is trading at 72 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,348 and platinum at $1,352 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.76 a barrel this afternoon. And those are your business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Buntle Hetbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Have you been struggling to find Channel Africa?
Oh yes, where can I find you guys?
Well, you are in luck.
Warning, radioactive zone detected.
Listen to the African perspective on our brand new SABC Plus app. Download the fresh and easy to use app from sabcplus.com or the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Or just command your phone to find SABC Plus on your phone and check out all this good stuff. And that's where you will find Channel Africa, the African perspective. Oh yes, this is fresh and easy. We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are the Upside. Is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece.
Song there by Tony Fika, Ntamuda, featuring Mr. Kali. A song coming all the way from Angola. What a beautiful time to find ourselves living in, where we have Channel Africa exposing you to all kinds of music from the entire continent of Africa. You know, sometimes you get so used to just hearing South African, Amapiano. No, man, expand your horizons and hear music from the other parts of Africa. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Upside special show this afternoon, because we've got a new body in the studio. Her name is Mmatsheko Mosito. How's it going so far? Almost through the first hour.
Listen, how much do you want? Can you be my hat man every day and I will pay for it?
Pay me in dollars.
Oh, righty then. Never mind. Forget about that.
How's it going so far?
Listen, it's going amazing. We spoke books, right, with Lerato, and just her journey in being an author. And, she's still very young. So there's lots to explore, I think, when it comes to telling the stories of women. So I'm looking forward to her journey and other young women, and that dynamic about how we tell our stories, how we view each other and all of that. So that's wonderful. And as we continue on with storytelling, in the next hour, we're going to be looking at the legacy of South Africa's great father of theatre, of music. I mean, I really am just tempted to go there and just call him a genius, because what he has been able to achieve over several decades is nothing short of genius. Building on South African iconography, building just the story of musicality and how we can, as a people of song and dance, how we can use that to preserve who we are and all of that. So with that said, in the next hour, we're going to be looking at Ngema Remembered, a life in lyrics, script, and stage lights. Do you have a favorite Mbongeni song? A favorite Mbongeni play, what's your fondest memory of his work?
Woza Albert, what was the other one?
Oh, Woza Albert was
huge, was massive, big deal, right? Yeah. Those were the ones that stand out for me. And I remember at the time, I was like, I'm not very big on theatre, but it was his work that I really gravitated towards when it came to any theatre productions. And I find myself now wanting to revisit a lot of these stories, a lot of these plays because of him. So we'll be reflecting on this documentary, Remembering Ngema. It's now 10 minutes before 2 p.m. Central African time. Let's take a quick breather. When we get back, some music coming your way, and then we learn more about our new body in the studio. Mmatsheko, Mosito.
I'm here.
Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa 1. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa 1. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. The Upside. On the Upside, your voice matters. For 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa.
Central African Time, Kolo Kolo by Pato Ranking featuring Diamond Platinums. This is the Upside on Channel Africa, the African perspective. We are with you all the way to 4 p.m. Central African Time. Stream us live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. And again, say a good afternoon and a welcome to the Upside family. Mmatsheko Mosito.
Drum rolls and everything.
What kind of conversations do you enjoy, actually?
Listen, I am in a new phase of my conversation, but I really just enjoy speaking to people who have an artistic bone.
Artistic bone?
Yes.
So the creatives of the world.
All kinds of creatives. And you find them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You find them in medicine, men and women.
Yeah.
You find them in the space of academics. You find them in sciences. I was speaking to a woman several months ago, and she is she's a scientist come winemaker.
Scientist come winemaker.
Yeah, so
that sounds like it can work.
That is a very interesting human being because obviously having an academic qualification in the sciences, she's now used that to be creative and to create delicious fruity wines. So her approach is like it's different, it's vibrant, it's beautiful, it's feminine, it's infused. So I love speaking to people that are creative because those are the problem solvers for this African continent of ours.
It reminds me of a nutritionalist who started their own juice bar. I was like, that makes sense.
Oh, listen.
Who knows better about what goes into your body and what your body needs than a nutritionalist? But I love the fact that you love creatives. You are a creative yourself. Do people know that you go behind the decks? The decks. Is it the desk? Decks. It's the decks.
I'm actually, that is more sort of making jazz music accessible to African people, to make it accessible, to make it not that it's this elitist thing that you have to pay $1,000 for, but really jazz music on the African continent needs to be more accessible. If you go to Scandinavian countries, for example, people that work in their overalls put down their tools and go and watch a jazz show. There's instrumentation and music and energy being moved around through song and dance everywhere. And for me, it just doesn't make sense how we as African people, inherently people of song and dance, just have made this thing, so confined, and it's so elitist, and you've got to have be of a certain LSM to access it. So my work with really the promotion of that space is to make the music accessible to everybody. So that was the mission with that. But we evolve, we change, we shape, we shift, and we've got other wonderful missions to do.
And people can check out some of your mixes on social media. Am I correct? On YouTube, you've got a whole channel there.
I've got a whole channel.
Essence of Rhythm.
Yes.
Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
She celebrates jazz music on the African continent, which is beautiful. You are giving Chakra Han vibes.
Wazy King, I can't help it.
Energy, gemstones.
I cannot help it. Like, I wear them, I live them, I breathe them, and it's so excited. But you and I working together, I think we our energy is going to bounce off each other so beautifully. And you are also creative, teaching people about the outdoors, teaching people about sort of a return back to ourselves. That's creative work, man. That's beautiful.
Like, can we just go back to the basics?
We just go back to the
when
basics?
The elders are like, just walk outside, take off your shoes, be barefoot, and just hug a tree. We think it's all hippie. It's actually where we need to be as human beings. And so if we can return to that and inspire the new generation to embrace nature, I'm a big conservation fan, so we have quite a few things to talk about. But
a lot, yes.
I tell you what, Ujwalani Tulongwepe is standing by, because she's like, you've been talking too much now. 2 p.m. Central African time, she's standing by with your latest news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Tebogo. Top stories. Asawa. Trump's administration reportedly cancelled major contract to supply emergency kits for rape survivors in Congo, and a high-level delegation of the Namibian Council of Traditional Leaders has undertaken a 3-day visit to South Africa. Good afternoon. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has cancelled a major contract to supply emergency kits for rape survivors in Congo as violence surged in the east this year, leaving thousands without access to life-saving medication. This has been revealed by the United Nations and aid agencies. The emergency kits include medicine to prevent HIV and other sexually transmitted infections, as well as unwanted pregnancies. Ntantla Mahlangu has the story.
According to Reuters news agency, the decision to cancel the contracts for around 100,000 post-rape kits has not been reported previously. The U.S. Agency for International Development contract was intended to resupply Congo's war-ravaged eastern provinces for the year and left thousands of health centers without provisions when fighting was escalating. The State Department, which manages U.S. aid, has not responded to repeated requests for comment. Reuters also says it spoke to officials at the United Nations and 4 other aid groups that treat rape survivors in eastern Congo for verification on the story. A team also visited a site in South Kivu province to talk directly to health workers and survivors. For Channel Africa News, I am Ntantla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Liberia's former President William Tolbert is set to receive a symbolic burial today, 45 years after he was murdered during a coup and his body believed to be dumped in a mass grave. 10 days after the president's killing, following trials by a kangaroo court, 13 of his cabinet were stripped, tied to stakes, and then executed by a firing squad on a beach next to an army barracks in the capital Monrovia. None of the 14 corpses has been found, but each man is due to get a state funeral at a ceremony attended by President Joseph Boakai and other dignitaries. The event is seen as an act of reconciliation and part of a process of the country coming to terms with its violent recent past. Expert witness in South Africa's Judge Salbi Mbenenge's sexual harassment probe has sought to explain her analysis of the exchanges between the judge and the complainant. Researcher Lisa Vetten says she does not intend to patronize the judge's secretary, Andy Swamengo, but rather to illustrate the power dynamics involved when the accused is in a position of authority. Vetten, who has worked in the field of violence against women since 1991, is currently under cross-examination in the landmark probe. Upon being pressed on her perceived sympathetic stance towards Mengo that seeks to reduce her to a child in the exchanges between the pair, Vetten said the following.
I think you're misinterpreting what I mean when I say childlike. And I repeat again that I'm talking about a position in relation to the judge. I'm not talking about somebody who's actually a child, should be thought of as a child. It's more like positions of authority. It's not about people's mental capacity. It's not about their abilities. It's about the degree of respect or deference you are expected to show somebody when you are positioned in a particular role. It's not that that person is a child and you treat them as a child.
A high-level delegation of the Namibian Council of Traditional Leaders has undertaken a 3-day visit to meet their South African counterpart on a strategic mission to look at options for traditional authorities to be self-reliant. Ombara Vezemburuka Gambazembi of the Namibian Council of Traditional Leaders says they are benchmarking with a number of African countries.
Not only come to South Africa, 3 weeks back we've been in Ghana, again in Uganda. Now we are in South Africa. We are the same people. Politicians are visiting each other frequently, and for us as traditional leaders, this is the first time. We came to meet our brothers and sisters in the traditional setup, come and benchmark and learn from them to see how they relate with their government, how they relate with the private sector, the business community, and also with their community.
U.S. President Donald Trump's former advisor Elon Musk has stepped up his criticism of the president's tax and spending bill as senators continue to vote on amendments. Musk has condemned the bill as insane. The BBC's Jake Kwan has more.
President Trump is chastising any holdouts to pass this bill. It is a very slim margin. And we just saw that Elon Musk not only threatened to start his own party, but he will back any politicians to run against the Republican members who will be voting for this bill come the midterms election next year. So the Republican lawmakers who are in the chamber right now are really stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one side, you have the world's richest man who is threatening to fund your opponents next year. And on the other side is, of course, President Trump.
Recapping the top story this hour, U.S. President Donald Trump's administration had cancelled a major contract to supply emergency kits for rape survivors in Congo as violence surged in the east this year, leaving thousands without access to life-saving medication. This has been revealed by the United Nations and aid groups. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Webe.
SABC News. The African Perspective. Is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows.
After 2 p.m. Central African Time, welcome to the second hour of The Upside on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Let us know where you're streaming us from this afternoon. +2763 406 9126 is the WhatsApp line, and you can stream us live on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. We are broadcasting live from the Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa. My name is Tebogo Lekhuleni, and today I do not ride solo. I've got an incredible co-host sitting by my side. Her name is Mmatsheko Mosito.
Today and every day. You forgot to say and every day.
Oh, and every day. Going forward.
Going forward. Oh my goodness. This is the new Upside as you're hearing it. The product has changed, but for the better as we try and move through the continent. Welcome to the golden hour of the show. We are 8 minutes into 2 p.m. Central African time. We explore storytelling. You know what I appreciate? There's so many things I love and appreciate. I appreciate that people in journalistic spaces and spaces of really spreading news and that sort of thing are also transmuting their knowledge and being creative with it. We were talking about creativity in the first hour. Lindani Benze is known as a journalist in South Africa, but he's also now a producer and filmmaker. So he's expanding on ideas. He's expanding on how to share the good news through film and storytelling. And he's now telling the story of the genius Mbongeni Ngema. Isn't that wonderful?
He'll be joining us live. That's fantastic, actually, because you know for a fact he did his research for this documentary.
Yeah, he did his research.
Because of the journalistic background. He's done his research properly.
Yes.
He'll be joining us in studio in a couple of minutes' time to tell us about this incredible documentary, Ngema Remembered. The man behind Sarafina, Mbongeni Ngema.
There we go.
Do we need any other intro? Why his story needs to be told?
If you just say Mbongeni Ngema and Sarafina, the whole world knows exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to find out more about this documentary as put together by Lindani Mbenze. We're going to find out about him and his pursuit in filmmaking, but also just this grand documentary, which is very exciting.
That conversation is coming up next. And as always, we welcome your interaction and your engagement on social media. Send us a WhatsApp. Let us know what your favorite Mbongeni Ngema, the theater, play, whatever it is, movie, whatever it is, when you hear Dr. Mbongeni Ngema's name mentioned, what sticks out to you? What memories does it raise? +27 63 406 9126. It's 10 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time. That conversation is coming up next.
Channel Africa, your voice, your sound, and your home. Stay logged right here.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu maswala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Your afternoons just got even better, fresh and exciting. The Upside, hooking you up with today's news from an African perspective.
Negative guitar, negative guitar, you black, push your monkey can nanga tula. Negative guitar, negative guitar, you black, push your monkey can nanga tula. Negative guitar, tamusha shadi kampaga, ke tsore di fela ke khele ke vasi di staga ke gongwe ke tsa suba itse ke tlele mokaga ke phatswe ke ngaka tse thata melotse tsi di tla hlasela Jericho ha iso ha una ja ya na haila jena ka retla di amara ska ba matselenya monna ganwang ke le phako ke rubetse ke monna tata tata tento tsa sefa go ke thata ke ba hlatsisa tsaka ke metse dikgeleke sa monna phamisa gaka ke utse hantle hodima tlhogo sana ka la gaka ena o tla bo floga o jaaka sa lo sheba taba tsaka ke thata ke metse lesotho le freestata ke plaga ha ke tla ha banna ba ipata ke bothata ke nkane ba pa ho e fata flush ya me ntshwanela pele phatso ha ke hata ke thata negative ke thata ke plaga Push mo ke kena nanga thula negative ke thata negative ke thata ke plaga Push mo ke kena nanga thula negative ke thata ke ba gana ka tshofo banna ba kene fatse ke ba jefa fosho ke binela tsa mafete maka ta itsapotang ke binela maselesele ha bo monang ga kotang le gale ke hlolwa setswingja molapo ke tla dula ke gantsa diphaka tsa ka tse magapo ke monna toropo mo sebisetswang ka lerato ke metse tsa botjhabela tsa mamosa le molapo ke thata ha ke ntwa o hlolwa le gale a ganda iputswa le hetleng ke tse thotho e tlang molamo e so maseka se ke tse bana ba gangwa ke sita tswana gapa bosigo thunya disangwa ke go ikate ke pholetse tla pele ke a dihula ke monna wa o isa molamo ntweng ho la dithunya ke tshwere meke tsa ka competition a ke bone mojesu ya makarabo fitoro wa bo motšhone ke thata
a di fela le manothi na ke dutse ha ke le teng sefefa ha se gutse tsa yesu di kena fela ha di botse tse gonong tse hlabana ha di gotse
negative ke thata negative ke thata ke plaga Push mo ke kena nanga thula negative ke thata negative ke thata ke plaga Push mo ke kena nanga thula negative ke
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Protests have erupted in parts of Kenya with police firing tear gas at protesters. The protests are in honor of those killed in huge anti-tax demonstrations a year ago. Alex Kiari.
We just received a communication from Kenya's communications regulator, the Communication Authority of Kenya, which has ordered for the end of all live broadcasts for the ongoing protests in the country, and they are citing this as saying that it's a security threat contrary to Article 33, Section 1 of the Kenyan Constitution, which allows them that chance to do that.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Let the Upside transport you from Cape to Cairo every weekday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
It's 16 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African Time. The last song we were listening to there, Kitata by Ntate Stana. What a song. When I heard it initially, I started using it on the treadmill. I heard it first here on the show.
Oh, I love
And then
that.
I started using it on the treadmill. There's something about the beat that gets me all energized.
I love that. Actually, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about what's on our workout playlist.
Oh, workout playlist.
We need to talk
That's
about
a whole
that.
Friday. That's a whole Friday edition there. You
Yeah.
create your playlist, I'll create mine.
Okay, so there we go. An idea for something to add to your playlist. We are 17 minutes into 2 p.m. in Central African Time. You're listening to The Upside. Tebogo, Lekhuleni and Mmatsheko Mosito in studio with a special guest as we really look at the story of one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah.
When we look at theatre, when we look at music, when we look at just the broad space of song and dance, yeah?
He was the mind, I said earlier, he was the mind behind Sarafina.
Yes.
And today we are remembering the late, great Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. And we're doing this through the lens of a documentary. And our special guest will tell us a bit more.
He will tell us. So we're looking at the story of Mbongeni Ngema, but very personal documentary that we're going to be looking at as it opens the curtains on the life of one of South Africa's most celebrated creative minds. Told in his own words, this is a film that is going to take viewers through a beautiful story of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema's artistry, how he sort of came through with Woza Albert. We were talking about the theatre play Woza Albert, which was really big, Asna Mali, to him just becoming a global storyteller. Really, I get goosebumps just thinking about how big his story is. And I think the archival space, when we look at his footage, his interviews, his voice that moved through many places and spaces, his work with Quincy Jones, his work with Leledu Khumalo, just reflecting on South Africa. And I think the space of apartheid South Africa, which has been well documented. So with that said, we are not the storytellers, but Lindani Mbenza is the storyteller for this particular documentary. We know him as a South African journalist, but he has since, of course, come through with filmmaking, with his experience in journalism, and really telling this wonderful story that is very, very important for the African continent. LM, welcome to the show. So wonderful to meet you in person.
Good afternoon, and pleasure to be here.
Exciting to have you here because we're about to talk about a very important conversation, a man whose reputation, legacy is larger than life for the most part. A quick introduction of you, LM, before we get into that documentary. Mmatsheko is like, journalist, some people may not know. Who is LM?
LM is, grew up within the corridors of the SABC. I'll start it there. I first entered the doors of SABC in 2001 as an intern, and I never left until 2016. Having worked in Morning Live, having worked with SABC News, sports journalist there. In fact, I picked up an award there at some point. It was still called the SAB Awards. So I got, Journalist of the Year that time. But mainly I ended up as a sports broadcaster with SABC. That was my old life, very exciting life. And since then, I ventured into production behind the scenes, and this is where we are today.
It's 20 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time. We're going to take a quick breather. When we get back, we will find out what was the inspiration behind this documentary and what can people expect. Don't go anywhere. This is The Upside on Channel Africa.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation. Africa at Play with Neto and ETO Chairman.
The Confederation of African Athletics, CAA President Mr. Hamad Kalkaba Malboum, talk to us about the state of athletics in Africa as it stands, and what picture are you looking at 5 years later?
Athletics in Africa is strong. We are able to organize our major events in time. Like this year, we will have the under-20 and under-18 African Championship in Nigeria. Next year, we will have the senior in Ghana. In 2027, we will go back to Algeria to organize the under-18 and under-20. And then 2028, we will have the senior championship in Gaborone in Botswana. Well, by this program, we can increase our performance. And at the same time, we are considering the fact that within the British Federation, they are identifying young talent every year within the national program, within the scholarship championship. And so the athletics in Africa is in good standard.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
Hello, Africa. We would love to hear your voice on our radio station. Be part of the fun and send a shout out or greeting message to your loved ones and your favorite Channel Africa presenters. Whether you're in Africa, the diaspora, or anywhere else around the globe, we want to hear your voice. Send your shout out message by sending an email to info@channelafrica.co.za or send them to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Help us diversify our sound with your voice. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Whatever you want to hear about today's talk, you can only get it on the Upside. Every weekday, 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
22 minutes into 2 p.m. Central African Time. Welcome to the Upside with Tebogo and Mmatsheko in studio with a special guest as we talk about a very important part of our creative history, a very important time of our years of segregation, but also how the story has been told. We have a gentleman representing Mgungundlovu, but also just representing the world, really, with his storytelling. Lindani Benza is a journalist from South Africa, but also exploring the space of filmmaking, putting together a wonderful documentary to tell the story of the late, great Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. Lindani, let's start at the beginning, okay? At the beginning for me is really trying to establish and understand your meeting with Dr. Ngema. You know, how did you meet him? Because I think then that would be able to give us a sense of why you decided to move with his story in this manner.
I think where it all began, I've seen so many great South Africans pass on. And when they have, we're left with nothing. Nothing documented about them except what you actually see on the newspaper or in a TV interview. And, so this is where it started for me. So I wanted to start a series of documentaries. So the subtitle being, This Is My Story, because I believe people should be telling their stories. They live amongst us. Let's catch them while they are alive, while they're with us, and get the story from the horse's mouth. So that's where it began. But I think Dr. Ngema made it very easy for me. I had told a friend that I wanted to do this series, and I had a whole list. Your Prince Mosito Butelezis were there, your Tebogo Tsulas were there, your Hugh Masigelas were on that list, and one of the names was Dr. Ngema. So the friend said, no, he knows him very well. In fact, we were actually busy with a project in Limpopo. He said, on our way back, we can pass his house and see him. It was a Monday.
Yeah.
Listen to this. It was a Monday evening. I told Dr. Ngema this idea that I had, and his answer that I want to do a documentary on him.
Yes.
And all he said was, "I'm free on Wednesday."
Oh,
Monday. I'm free on Wednesday.
I'm free on Wednesday. Yeah, that's where it all began.
So suffice to say, he was keen on having his story be documented and shared.
I think what surprised him more is, this young man wanting to tell the story about the possibly or arguably the greatest African storyteller, we have, in whichever way you want to look at it. So I think he was more in awe or more surprised and thought, okay, let me see what this is all about rather than anything. Because he didn't ask me, what documentary have you done or what's your history in this or what's your background? Show me something. Anyone will always say, if I say I want to take photos of you, you're going to say, show me something.
Show me your credentials. Yes.
He asked for that. All he said to me was, I'm free on Wednesday.
Talk about the stars aligning. I love that story. I love that story. And also, I think it's just, first of all, I mean, congratulations and well done. I couldn't have chosen a better person. When you really consider the work that he's done, his catalogue in theatre is it's vast, and it has been able to outlive him, and it's going to outlive us all. So really just a perfect story to tell. But talk to me about just putting the pieces of this puzzle together, because there are so many angles that you can take with Mbongeni, from his childhood to the Sarafina space, to him working with Hugh Masigelas. So what angle did you take with his story, and what story do you actually want to tell?
I heard when you were promoting the interview, you spoke about that I was a journalist, therefore I did my homework.
Yes.
But some things really need you. Sometimes the less you know of something, the more you get out of it. If I don't know who you are, what you do, I ask everything in detail.
Yeah.
Who are you? What's your surname?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Right.
Who are your parents?
Yes.
So I think when I started the documentary with Dr. Ngema, because from Monday to Wednesday, not too much could be done because I had to arrange everything else. So I didn't get a full chance to actually do full research. So a lot of the things, but I found that some of the things he speaks about, I probably wouldn't have asked had I known it's a norm. So it's a really deep conversation. I think it really. What I found when I was doing the documentary with him is it actually took him into places he had forgotten, into spaces that he had forgotten, because suddenly you have to dig deep, because you're not being asked these questions. You're the guy that's just presenting everything to everyone. Suddenly you're being asked, how did you create Sarafina? And besides, how did you create Sarafina? What was the what was everything behind it? What was the motivation? And you find someone actually, it's as if he's paging backwards in a book. But you can see it in thoughts, and what you get out of there is out of, it comes with a lot of emotion, it comes with a lot of thinking, and he's really literally reliving it as he's telling you. And what a great storyteller, let me tell you that much.
Oh, brilliant.
Because you'll sit, we're sitting here having an interview, but with him you'll be sitting and you get caught up in what he's telling you. And you end up, when someone's telling you a story, and it's like, okay, so guys, I think there's, like you're saying, who better to have, the documentary obviously has a lot of overlay footage, a lot of archive, but he can just capture, he captures, even there was a camera guy I was working with, you end up forgetting to press record or stop because what an amazing character. And for me, I remember that I went to watch, my mother took my family to watch Sarafina. I think it was in Durban, early 90s somewhere, the theater. And to be, I think I was about 5, 7 or somewhere, whatever age I was, but very young. Sometimes you sit with greats as a kid. It could be your son, could be your daughter, it could be, and you don't know that one day you are actually going to be the person to tell the story about, this great South African. So there's, it's so big. Like, I think your question was, how do you actually capture? And I think I just focused on certain key things. We dance to Stimela Sasezola every day, all over Africa, all over the world, but no one knows the story behind it. Suddenly in the documentary, there's a story behind what Stimela Sasezola was. Sarafina, we watch it year in, year out. Suddenly there's a story about, how it all started, and, it all unfolds obviously in the documentary. I mean, you spoke of Asina Mali and Walter Albert. Those plays were in Broadway in America in the early 80s. He was getting invites to come and perform there. We know that he's an international artist and he's known all over the world, for his work. But I think it was in 1982, 83, he was already showing his work to the world. And how much do we as South Africans actually know about his work except for Sarafina and Stimela Sasezola? And it's deep.
And a lot of it will get revealed on this documentary. And I would love to also touch on Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, the man himself, and what a character he was. And we'll touch on this right after we get the sports news and the business news as well. For now, Figile Lingwate is standing by. It's 31 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time to give us the latest in sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
We kick off with football news this hour. The Congolese Football Federation, FECOFOOT, has named Lekhuleni Ngatsono as the head coach of the Congo's A national team in a major technical overhaul as the country prepares for the 2024 African Nations Championship, CHAN. Ngatsono's appointment marks a return to national duty for the seasoned tactician who previously led the Sina Red Devils and now steps into a pivotal role as Congo eye their 5th appearance at the CHAN finals. He'll be supported by assistant coach Cedric Nanitelamio, both of whom recently earned CAF A coaching licenses, aligning Congo's ambitions with continental standards. The decision by FECOFOOT to completely revamp the coaching structure, retaining only physical trainer Eric Mokoyo from the previous setup, underscores a desire to reset and re-energize the team's prospects ahead of the tournament in East Africa this August. The 2024 CHAN will be hosted jointly by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania from the 2nd to the 30th of August under the Pamoja East Africa Initiative. South African National Olympic Body, SASCOC, President Barry Hendricks has confirmed that South Africa's bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games has been put on hold. The National Olympic Body will instead shift its focus to bidding for smaller international events, including the World Volleyball Championships, before preparing a bid for the 2040 Olympic Games. South Africa was among 11 countries, including Morocco and Egypt, that had expressed interest in hosting the 2036 Games. But Hendrik says they missed the deadline to submit the necessary bid documents to the IOC.
We've not been able to get through the ministry, we've not been able to get cabinet sanction. So we're going to put that on hold for now. We can look at 2040, but then also look at other events that we need to encourage international organizations to bring their events to South Africa. For example, we've spoken to, when we were in Lausanne, to World Volleyball. They want to bring their professional league here, as well as the international championships, but also their General Assembly.
Now, rugby news. The Springboks made the journey from Cape Town to Johannesburg to begin their preparations for the opening match of the Castle Lager incoming series against Italy at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria on Saturday. The Boks sustained an injury to Jean Klein in the match against the Barbarians. It's a blow, but not as devastating as it could have been, because the coaching staff have been crafting a fluid succession plan to weather player injuries. Scrum guru Dan Human explains.
I'm not in the medical department yet. I'm a doctor, but a scrum doctor, not a medical doctor, so I'm getting there. But I'm not too sure what's happening exactly. But we're fortunate that we have numbers. We're fortunate we have guys that can play lock as well, like Kobus Visa coming in as well. And I mean, like you all know, Peter Steph can always cover probably all the positions on the field for us.
Finally, with golf news, Ian Poulter's bid to play his first Open for 3 years could be thwarted by his son, Luke, who is also trying to make it to the championship. Both will be battling the odds in the same qualifying tournament to try to grab one of just a handful of spots at the main event. Either could knock the other out of contention for an Open berth. They are among 72 players competing over 2 circuits of Royal Senki ports in Kent. This family venture to reach Royal Portrush for the 153rd staging of golf's oldest major is one of several enticing storylines from final qualifying. The older Poulter, a Ryder Cup legend, has played in 20 Opens, but none since 2022, when the 49-year-old opted to join the LIV Tour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Midday vibes, great programming, and good company. This is Channel Africa. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
This song has a line that I love so much in the isiXhosa language. It says, Andinayo nesente mdaka. So I went down to the Eastern Cape. So I went to Yanga and said, Yanga, tell me here, what does Andinayo nesente mdaka mean?
If I say Andinayo nesente mdaka, it means that I do not have any money on me. I do not have money to give to you.
Interesting, because in Chivenda, I would just say, Atinana peni, ndo cherungwe. I wonder if you have that expression in your home language when you want to say you're broke, but in a very creative way. What do you say? I'd like to hear from you.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. They talk about what Africans say about Africa.
We're going to continue our conversation with Lindani Mbenze as we tribute the life of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. Right now, though, let's go to the economics desk. Bontle Hetbush has the latest.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. In our top business story at this hour, Guinea's exports of bauxite, a feedstock for aluminium, surged 39% to a record 48.6 million metric tons in the first quarter of this year. the regulatory crackdowns sidelined major operators. Most of this bauxite was shipped to China, where aluminium production has recovered. In the first 5 months of the year, China produced 18.59 million tons, a rise of 4% from the same period last year, according to Guinea's Ministry of Mines and Geology. Guinea, the world's second largest bauxite producer, shipped 312 vessels compared to 225 ships carrying 34.9 million tons in the first quarter of 2024. President of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, Kosatu Zingiswa-Losi, says it's time for South Africa to create and own a narrative as a country and ensure that every rand spent stays local. This as today marks the official launch of 2 new online platforms aimed at boosting the country's manufacturing and connecting buyers directly to homegrown products and producers. This initiative, Shop Proudly South African, is already active and offering more than 1,700 locally made items to consumers. This will allow South African made goods to step into the digital spotlight with a little help from government. Losi says they support the initiative as organized labor.
It is great to see the fruition of what we fought for as organized labor. It is good for us to be part of this journey and see when government listens, we can be able to shift the narrative and also to make South Africa great. So we're here to give support to Proudly South Africa and also to say we're grateful to the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. Let's work together to build a better South Africa.
Meanwhile, South Africa's manufacturing sector continues to show signs of strain. According to Absa Bank's Purchasing Managers Index PMI, the headline PMI contracted for the 7th consecutive month. The index, which measures the health of the sector, declined by 1.6 points to 43.1 index points in May 2025. The decline in the Suppliers Deliveries Index pushed the headline PMI lower. Notando Makudulela reports.
Absa says the manufacturing sector continued to suffer in May despite some flickers of activity and demand improvement, albeit at extremely low levels. However, the improvement in orders and activity provides some optimism for recovery. This is due to domestic demand recovering slightly as export sales continue to deteriorate at a rapid rate. At the same time, the index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months' time increased in May due to improved sentiment as global tariffs were suspended.
South Africa has asked for more time to negotiate a trade deal with the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration before his higher tariff regime goes into effect on July 9. Trump imposed a 31% tax on U.S. imports from South Africa in April as part of his global reciprocal tariffs before pausing their application for 90 days to allow for negotiations. South Africa's Trade Ministry says the country aims to secure a trade deal that will exempt some of its key exports from the tariffs, including autos, auto parts, steel, and aluminium. It has offered to buy liquefied natural gas from the United States in exchange. It's also seeking a maximum tariff application of 10% as a worst-case scenario. The U.S. is South Africa's second largest bilateral trading partner after China. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Secretary General, Matthias Cormann, says that it's crucial to develop stronger and coordinated international partnerships to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. He spoke at the second day of the 4th International Conference of Financing in Spain, where issues such as sustainable growth and climate change were discussed. Cormann further says that the OECD supports the greater mobilization of private finance.
In partnership with the United Nations and Convergence, our new private investment mobilization action plan will help achieve the private finance objectives that are outlined in the Compromiso de Sevilla. More broadly, the OECD is working to address barriers to scaling up private investment, including a lack of data leading to higher perceived investment risk in developing countries. For example, through the data analysis portal we are launching this year through our Africa Virtual Investment Platform.
Now for a look at the indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 537. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 21. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49. And in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 79. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 46. Russia, 78 rubles 16. In India, it's 85 rupees 62. China, 7 yuan 16. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 74 cents. $1 is trading at 72 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,348 per ounce this afternoon, and platinum at $1,352 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.76 a barrel. And those are your business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hetbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Have you been struggling to find Channel Africa?
Oh yes, where can I find you guys?
Well, you are in luck.
Warning, radioactive zone detected. Please enter.
Listen to the African perspective on our brand new SABC Plus app. Download the fresh and easy to use app from sabcplus.com or the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Or just command your phone to find SABC Plus on your phone and check out all this good stuff. And that's where you will find Channel Africa, the African perspective. Oh yes, this is fresh and easy. The Upside. On the Upside, your voice matters.
I am Bongeni Ngema. I was born on the 1st of June 1955 in Verulam, near Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And as soon as I looked at those ladies, the lyrics just came. Stimulus Kentucky was only influenced by the Kentucky that Makala brought to the studio. Quincy Jones brought everyone to South Africa. Whether it's Michael Jackson's family, whether it's Denzel Washington, whether it's Stevie Wonder, everybody. It takes me back to my great-grandmother when I was sitting in that hut. Silently inside her, she was saying, "My boy, I want you to tell these stories about the African people, about your people."
15 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African Time. The voice there of Dr. Bongeni Ngema. We're remembering him. A documentary created by Lindani Mbese. And just listening to that, you already know that you are in for a ride. We are still in conversation with Lindani. He's joining us in studio to tell us about this documentary. Ngema remembered, this is my story. Off air, we were having a conversation and you were saying that about 95% of this documentary, it's his voice, it's his perspective, it's his story.
It's his story. There can't be any deviation from it.
Yeah.
If he's chosen to deviate, it's his story still. So I think, the drive for me with the documentary is, people need to be telling their own stories. People need to be telling people what they want people to know. I once had a screening, and one of the people watching the screening said, "Okay, but now where's all the other stuff that we hear?" But I said, "I'm not a tabloid. I'm here to tell, honestly, my documentaries, which I'm hoping there'll be more and more. I'm here to tell a feel-good story about South Africa, about our artists. Other countries do it with their people, why not us? So, I'm here to tell the feel-good story."
I love that.
I love that. We have enough negativity, so let's go the positive route. I think that's just such a beautiful angle. I really like what you said before we took a break, and I want to reflect on that. How Dr. Ngema was put in a place to reflect on his own journey, and had it not been for this documentary, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to reflect on his work because he was busy with the next play. He was busy with the next travel, busy with the next song, So you have given him such a gift in terms of giving him an opportunity to reflect on the genius and the icon that he was in the space. Let's talk about, in the story, how you were able to tell his story of how, because a lot of what he does intersected between the arts and activism. So how did that meet in the documentary?
I think it became very easy because I think everything he saw, he saw a play of. Everything he heard, he saw entertainment of.
Yes.
I'll just give you a sneak into it. When he says how Sarafina started, for example, obviously, like you're saying, politically things were, all over the show. So he says, he starts by saying that he had gone to a funeral with Umam Winnie Mandela. And when he came back, while they were sitting in a kitchen and she was cooking, he asked her, Mom Winnie, where do you think this is all going to end? And she said, and he says that she said she wishes she could get a big blanket and cover all the young ones so that they don't see the bitter end. Which means, she at the time she had no hope that we'd ever come out of that. And Dr. Ngema says as he's driving home, he started having visions of this young girl standing saying, "Freedom is coming tomorrow." And when he got home, he actually wrote, "Freedom is coming tomorrow," which was the beginning of Sarafina.
Get ready, Mama. The freedom is here.
Because he was just fighting these words that Mom Winnie had put. No, there's no ways. So freedom is coming.
When they say someone was walking in their gift, he was absolutely in his gift. To now see visions and see outside of what you can see in your physical reality and imagine a different world, that is on another level. I want us to touch on the man himself. You were able to interact with him. Beyond the creativity, beyond the brain, the genius, what kind of man was he? And I would love for you to reflect on that. Was he a man who enjoyed the laughter, shared a joke or two? Well, did he gossip about other people? I don't know. But I want us to touch on that. We're going to take a quick breather. It's 10 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African time, and then we get to understand a bit better of who the man was behind the genius, behind the creativity. What kind of man was he? We'll find that out right after this. We are still in conversation with Lindani Mbenza, the man behind this documentary, Remembering Ngema.
Hello, Africa. We would love to hear your voice on our radio station. Be part of the fun and send a shout out or greeting message to your loved ones and your favorite Channel Africa presenters. Whether you're in Africa, the diaspora, or anywhere else around the globe, we want to hear your voice. Send your shout-out message by sending an email to info@channelafrica.co.za or send them to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Help us diversify our sound with your voice. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
No fairy tales, just the facts and the music you love on Channel Africa.
It's 10 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African time. We're still in conversation with the man behind this important documentary, Ngema Remembered. This is my story. Lindani Mbenza. Lindani, the man, who was he? What kind of man was he? Did he enjoy a laugh or two? Was he a jokey kind of guy? Was he a serious? The personality.
Very jolly. Very excited all the time.
Yeah.
Ubuntu has so much of that. The fact that, Bob Ngema was old enough to be my father. But, the way he respected whatever I needed to do or
Yeah.
I think that becomes, I should have even started with that. Ubuntu is all about. In fact, in the documentary, there's a part where Quincy Jones is actually speaking about Dr. Ngema.
Okay.
And he speaks about that. He says,
That's beautiful.
Ubuntu that South Africans bring. Ushuti had seen it through Ubabungema. He says Ubuntu, and he says that's actually my most favorite part about South Africa, is that Ubuntu. So obviously, when he was abroad doing his things, he took that with him, and people picked it up.
I love that.
Oh man, look, you've gotten me very excited. We've spoken about Dr. Ngema's journey. We've spoken about the work, and you putting together this wonderful documentary, which really filters into the space of South African iconography. Let's talk about where we can see this. You shared just some wonderful details with us off air around the completion of this documentary. It was completed a good 2 years ago already. So it's ready, it's packaged. We want to dress up, we want to go out, and we want to take our children, most importantly, to go and see this wonderful African story. So let's talk about how we can consume this work now.
Yeah, so the wish, the dream, which we'd actually shared also with Dr. Ngema when we were doing the documentary, is is his sacred home of arts is the Playhouse in Durban.
Right.
So I would love a situation where it's premiered at the Playhouse in Durban.
Yeah.
Bring the world of arts, the greats, all of them to Durban. I mentioned I would love to have a Whoopi Goldberg be the guest of honor, deliver maybe a Dr. Mbongeni Ngema lecture at one of the universities. And we've got so many greats that are still around us. You still have our John Carneys, we still have our Yvonne Chaka-Chachas, we still have, there's so many of them. I would love Abo Hot Sticks Mabuza, they're also, part of the documentary. I would love to bring the whole world, in front of him. And the only place I see that happening and fitting is the Playhouse. I think it takes about 1,600 people, have the whole Sarafina cast with a theater or the movie, because you're aware that they travel, Sarafina travels abroad every year, so they're changing casts so you can imagine how many actors have been through recently. I mean, they just launched for 2025 at the Joburg Theatre. I went to see that, all new faces. So every single time it's all new faces. But what I really respect with his work is it's remained the same. This one I thought maybe someone would change something here and there. It still remains the same. The energy, because I spoke to some of the actors that and actresses that worked with him. They say, Wutsi, the typical old school teaching way. Niashawa. Remember we used to have jam majorettes where you practice until
you get it right.
It's going to be
perfect.
3 a.m. That's your business, but so you see that even in the cast that is now, it's 2025, but you can see that whatever he put into the minds and the brains that are still working with his work, that still comes across very strongly. I mean, it was amazing. Every time I watched it now, I think of some 2-3 weeks ago. It was like the first time you've seen it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I hope it can come to life, this vision and this dream of yours, to have everyone be at the Playhouse to watch this documentary, because it's already gaining nominations, a whole nomination at the 2025 Simon Mabunu Sabela Awards. What does that recognition mean for you? Because I know you've put in so much of your heart, so much of your time into this, and then to get a nomination, that's quite a big deal.
I think it's a very big deal. It's been a very emotional, tough, challenging journey, because you can do the work, and then you now have to introduce it to the rest of the family. You don't know where that ends, and then you have to introduce it into the showbiz. You don't know what the interest there is and where that ends, and then next thing you're all over the show. You do something for a whole year trying to find your feet, and you realize after a year that I haven't even moved. In fact, if anything, I've gone 2 steps back. So the work is done. It's just now how smartly do we get it out there? It would be sad for me for it to be recognized abroad before we've done it here. But sometimes you realize that some things are done because that just becomes the only way. Then while we are quiet and trying to put things together, someone from New York says, "Wow, we've got this. Bring it here. Let's start working." What do you say? What do you do then? So I really wish that we are able to watch it and celebrate it in South Africa before it can travel. But yeah, the award comes at such a great time. Last year he was actually honored at the awards, and for me it would just complete a great life that dedicated itself to the arts. If he could win, maybe this is me trying to.
He must win.
He must win. He must just win.
Oh man, Lindani, big love for this. I think this is just so much bigger than all of us, and I love that, you talk about how the story has remained the same even in its reimagination over the years. The story and its integrity remains intact, and you're contributing to that. You're contributing to keeping the integrity of the story, not just of Sarafina, but just of Mbongeni Ngema and his participation in his sacred home, as you call it, of the arts. I love that. And all the best. My wish is that, as we hold out for the next grand South African film, that we spread the good news of Sarafina as told by Dr. Mbongeni Ngema for the whole African continent. So beyond the Playhouse, listen, we do Dakar.
Yes.
We do.
There we go. You see, now you're thinking like
Abuja.
There we go.
We do Ouagadougou.
Yeah.
We just move
Yeah.
the story through
Yeah.
the African continent. So I'm very excited, and I cannot wait to see. We're going, ne? We're going to the Playhouse.
We have no choice.
Of course,
we have no
of
choice.
course, of
Black
course.
tie and all.
Of course, yeah. I think it just deserves. I see it in my head.
Yeah.
The lights, the
Yes.
red carpets,
Yes.
So I just hope it comes to life.
Dindani, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and for telling the story that if it wasn't for you, let's be honest, we would not have heard this.
Yep.
We would not have known what his thoughts were, what his sentiments, what was the story behind the Sarafina. We would not have known behind the songs, the legend himself. Thank you for sticking through to the entire journey. And I know you said that quite a bit of sacrifice was required for this, but you did a fantastic job. People are recognizing it, and we also can't wait as the Upside and Channel Africa to watch the full documentary and see the brilliance coming together. Thank you so much for your time.
I'll bring you the trophy.
Oh, come on! I love that. It's a minute before 3 p.m. Central African time. On the other side, Jwalani Tulongwepe is standing by with your latest news. So don't go anywhere. This is the Upside on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Stream us live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. Jwalani, what's happening in the world of news?
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Tebogo. Top stories this hour. Trump's administration cancels a major contract to supply emergency kits for rape survivors in Congo. And Mali's armed forces have reportedly coordinated attacks on multiple military positions. Good afternoon. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has cancelled a major contract to supply emergency kit for rape survivors in Congo as violence surged in the east this year, leaving thousands without access to life-saving medication. This has been revealed by the United Nations and aid groups. The emergency kits include medicine to prevent HIV and other sexually transmitted infections, as well as unwanted pregnancies. Nhlanhla Mahlangu has the story.
According to Reuters news agency, the decision to cancel the contracts for around 100,000 post-rape kits has not been reported previously. The U.S. Agency for International Development contract was intended to resupply Congo's war-ravaged eastern provinces for the year and left thousands of health centers without provisions when fighting was escalating. The State Department, which manages U.S. aid, has not responded to repeated requests for comment. Reuters also says it spoke to officials at the United Nations and 4 other aid groups that treat rape survivors in eastern Congo for verification on the story. A team also visited a site in South Kivu province to talk directly to health workers and survivors. For Channel Africa News, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Mali's armed forces have reportedly coordinated attacks on multiple military positions early today in several towns in the central and western region of the West African country. The army says the attacks targeted Diboli in western Mali near Senegal's border and the nearby towns of Kayes and Sandere. There were also attacks in Nioro du Sahel and Gogui, northwest of the capital Bamako, near the border with Mauritania, and in Molodo and Niono in central Mali. No group has so far claimed responsibility. South Africa's Higher Education and Training Deputy Minister Buti Manamela says classrooms are more than just places of learning but also battlegrounds for equality, safety and dignity. He was speaking at the opening of a seminar on the promotion of gender equality through education in Durban. The seminar, which brings together government representatives, academics and young people, comes ahead of the third G20 Working Group on Education tomorrow in Durban in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Manamela says transformative education is more than just proving access to education for girls. He says it entails the lived realities of young people in schools, at home and on the sports field.
Teenagers in Mozambique, for instance, where teenage pregnancy remains or continues to be a systemic barrier. And I think it's one of the things that we can also relate here in our townships and in our rural areas, or some of the experiences of the young girls in Zimbabwe where corporal punishment and gendered violence persist.
Expert witness in South Africa's Judge Selby Mbenenge's sexual harassment probe has sought to illustrate the power dynamics involved when an accused is in a position of authority. On the second day on the stand, researcher Lisa Vetten explained her analysis of the exchanges between Judge Mbenenge and the complainant, Andy Swamengo. Vetten clarified that she does not intend to patronize the judge's secretary with her illustration. Vetten, who has worked in the field of violence against women since 1991, is currently under cross-examination in the landmark probe. Upon being pressed on her perceived sympathetic stance towards Mengo that seeks to reduce her to a child in the exchanges between the pair, Vetten said the following.
I think you're misinterpreting what I mean when I say childlike. And I repeat again that I'm talking about a position in relation to the judge. I'm not talking about somebody who's actually a child, should be thought of as a child. It's more like positions of authority. It's not about people's mental capacity. It's not about their abilities. It's about the degree of respectful deference you are expected to show somebody when you are positioned in a particular role. It's not that that person is a child and you treat them as a child.
Reports from Turkey say police have arrested at least 120 city officials in Izmir, a stronghold of the opposition CHP. Prosecutors ordered the detentions early in the morning as part of a corruption investigation. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's main political rival, Erkem İmamoğlu, was arrested in a similar operation in Istanbul in March. The BBC's Mary Temal has the details.
Izmir is Turkey's third largest city and has been run by the main opposition Republican People's Party, or CHP, for more than 2 decades. 157 arrest warrants were issued on corruption charges this morning. More than 120 people, including Izmir's former mayor Tunç Soyer, were arrested. CHP denies accusations of corruption. Murat Bakan, an MP from the party in Izmir, said members were facing a similar crackdown to what happened in Istanbul earlier this year.
Recapping the top story this hour, US President Donald Trump's administration had cancelled a major contract to supply emergency kits for rape survivors in Congo as violence surged in the east this year, leaving thousands without access to life-saving medication. This has been revealed by the United Nations and aid groups. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
7 minutes into the final hour, 3 p.m. in Central African time. Thank you for staying with us. And also, if you've just hopped on this train, listen, we are going far and wide. We're going from Cape to Cairo on the upside. Tebogo and Mmatsheko with you. We're in each other's company until 4 p.m. in Central African time. And man, what a show it's been already. Like my first day, and I'm just so excited to be talking meaningful things.
Don't make it sound bad.
Hey, we're talking meaningful things, Galogo. So I'm very, very excited. And we're in the final hour. Another wonderful conversation coming through.
Listen, we get into conversation with he's a comedian by trade, but he's delved into filmmaking and documentary now, with a viral documentary titled Stolen Ground, revealing how land has been seized in plain sight and why very few people are speaking about it. And he'll be touching on specifically the racetrack in Tiger Valley in the Western Cape. The key focus here is land being seized, and people not getting compensated, forcefully removed from their own land. What happens next? Why are those stories, or a lot of those stories, not being told? Why is there blanket adoption or face mask put on it to make it seem as if things were done properly, when there's so many families heartbroken, removed forcefully from their own land? But I want to get his perspective. As a comedian, does this mean that this documentary will feature some humor? I don't know. Like, I always question, if you're a comedian and you're going to do a serious documentary, how does that work?
I was actually thinking the same thoughts around, just the seriousness of this issue. Anything to do with land, with access, with African people is a very serious issue. So to have a funny guy come through with this is going to be a very interesting perspective, but that's what we're here for, to really show you what the space of storytelling looks like, and how there are different ways to really hold a mirror back to ourselves as society.
100%. His name is Joe Emilio. We'll be chatting with him in a couple of minutes' time. And then later on, we've got What Caught Your Eye. I can't wait to hear what caught your eye this afternoon. First of all, you're not new to the upside. You've been here before, as in like you've stood in a couple of times.
Yes, I've stood in for you. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to hear what caught your eye this afternoon, because I've got an interesting story. And it's a rather controversial one.
Let's surprise each other. So we're going to get to that at 2:45. But you're also welcome, if you are watching this or listening, you're welcome to let us know what caught your eye. It doesn't matter where you are in the African region or the world. Let us know. At Channel Africa 1, that's our suggestion box on Twitter. #The Upside.
If it's news and current affairs, leading opinions, and thought leaders that get your groove, this is your home, The Upside. In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Broadcasting in 5 different languages, connecting the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future.
Look at that. The clock is nice and synchronized, 15:15 in Central African time, moving through some South African sounds. Nomfundo Mo with Izibusiso, blessings. Listen, this day is blessed. It's anointed already. It is the first day of the month of July. We slept bang in the middle of the year. So we're already in deep reflection about the first half of the year, and we're getting into the next, which is so beautiful.
I tell you what, when you mentioned the 1515, angel numbers, those who believe in the angel numbers, the angel number 1515 signifies positive change, new beginnings, and opportunities coming into your life. How about that?
We lift our proverbial glasses of champagne to that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant.
That is in alignment.
I'm glad you found value in it, and I hope that wherever you are around the world, on the African continent, that aligns with you as well. All right, let's get into our conversation with Joe Emilio about a documentary. The documentary is called Stolen Ground, the Tygerberg Raceway. Earlier I said Tiger Village. Tygerberg. What happens when land is taken and no one stops it? In Stolen Ground, comedian turned commentator Joe Emilio delivers a gripping documentary on the illegal takeover of Cape Town's Tygerberg Raceway. It's a story of silence from those in power, anger from those affected, and deep questions about justice in South Africa's post-lockdown landscape. With over 60,000 views in 24 hours, this is not just a film, it's a wake-up call. And Joe joins us now on the line to tell us more. Joe, good afternoon and welcome to The Upside.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Hope you're all doing well, and hello to your viewers.
We are fantastic. Joe, my immediate question was, you are a comedian turned commentator. what was the shift? What was the genesis of that shift? Because not a lot of comedians would be venturing into such serious topics. What made you say, you know what, I want to start telling stories that matter, stories that are being hidden in the limelight for whatever reason, and I want to be the ambassador of that?
Well, it's I wouldn't say it's a long story, but the gist of it is this. I was doing stand-up comedy full-time before lockdown, and then obviously when lockdown happened, comedians didn't have much stages to perform on because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my YouTube channel. Pretty much the first day of lockdown in South Africa. And it took me a while. I was doing interviews with various people, comedians and politicians and famous people and all that stuff. And then eventually I zeroed in on a show I like to call Newsflash, which has become my flagship show of the channel, which I've recently rebranded to Newsflash with Joe Emilio, and started commentating. But I still try and bring my comedic flair to it by adding some memes and telling some jokes satirically and stuff like that. And then the shift to the documentary, I did an episode once on land grabs in South Africa shortly after. I think it was Cyril that said, there are no land grabs happening in South Africa before the Oval Office meeting. There was a guy on X who put out a thread. His name's LP. And he screen grabbed, he went on Google Earth, he looked at specific small towns and cities, and he saw that, in 2012 or whatever, early 2000s, it was a nice small town, or it was, a growing little neighborhood or what have you. And then in 2020 or 2021 and beyond, shacks all surrounding the same area. He was basically showing that land grabs are happening. And I saw that thread and I did a video on it, and then I decided I saw there was a lot of interest. I asked my viewers if they thought maybe I should do a deep dive on this, find out what's really going on. And then I also was curious. How can it be that in a constitutional democracy where we supposedly have property rights, can it be that individuals can take over land and set up a shack, and then it seems like the law is powerless to do anything? And that's exactly what I set out to answer. I wanted to look at 3 different areas, the Grabouw area, Hermanus, and the Raceway, but I decided to just focus on the Raceway because I didn't have a big budget. I had no budget at all. And the Raceway is not too far from me, so it was easy to go there and check it out, and also find the people that were involved with the Raceway at the time. Just started asking questions. I had no idea what I was going to discover. I had no idea about the Power Act. I had no idea about shack farming when I first started. And as I started asking the right questions, information just started to come out. And then I had to package it nicely so that people, the average South African or viewer for that matter, whether you live in South Africa or not, can understand it and grasp what is actually happening in South Africa.
21 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African time. We're currently in conversation with Joe Emilio. He's the man behind the documentary Stolen Ground, the Tygerberg Raceway. We'll continue the conversation right after this and ask him how he got it done with that shoestring budget. No budget at all, actually, but he managed to get something out. We'll continue the conversation right after this.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, Badea, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, he is vying for the presidency of the African Development Bank, the AFDB. He positions himself as a fervent defender of economic integration and structural transformation on the African continent.
So I do believe that I have a 360 view of the development challenges in the continent with my experience from both the supply side and the demand side. But more importantly, my vision is to bring on board all the stakeholders and to have a holistic approach for the development of the continent, and to develop partnership across the continent and outside the continent, bringing all the stakeholders together to work for one goal, is to make Africa green for life and livelihood of the African population.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African perspective. This is The Upside for the best African vibes, groundbreaking content.
Welcome to The Upside. Thank you so much for joining in this conversation. Very important as we continue the theme of documentary storytelling, and this one is particularly very interesting as we are in conversation with Joe Emilio, who joins us virtually. We are talking to him about, first of all, he's a comedian, come filmmaker, and he's come through with his debut documentary that he has titled Stolen Ground at the Tygerberg Raceway Story. Tebogo, Lekhuleni wanted to just interrogate how you were able to make this happen. But I think before we get there, perhaps let's talk about just the Tygerberg Raceway story. A little bit about that, because that is the focal point for this documentary, Joe.
Yes. So the Tygerberg Raceway story is a very devastating and heartbreaking story of a man who built a raceway on land. He was leasing it from the city of Cape Town, but everything he built on that land was his. He built it from scratch. There was a water problem. The water levels were very high. He invested money to get the water out of the racetrack, and he built it over years. And it was an area that many families across all creeds of life would come and enjoy racing. And it was also like a community raceway where youngsters, young racers could, own their craft, get better at racing, and move on to maybe circuit and so on. A lot of some of the most famous or successful racers of today came from that raceway that was destroyed. And unfortunately, during lockdown, a land invasion happened. They under the guise of a protest, and they just took it over. They destroyed it within a week. Everything was gone. They burnt everything down. They leveled it to the ground, and then enter the mafiosos and all that stuff. As well as, I think, a very important part of this story is two things. One is that the city did try for, even though it was the SAPs in the city, their resources are very thin, but they did try. And the biggest problem was during COVID, there was the courts were not allowing for evictions to take place. So they weren't processing evictions in the courts. But the city wanted to have an interdict in order to stop these individuals from invading the land. But what happened was the South African Human Rights Commission got involved, ironically, and protected the land invaders rather than the guy who actually owns the property on that land. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is the PI Act, which once someone erects a shack or dwelling, or even just a piece of cloth over your head, even if it's in your backyard, and you're not there to immediately take it down, once it's set up, once it even looks like someone lives underneath that tarp or that tent, even if there's a suitcase and a makeshift bed, you're not allowed to take it down. You have to go to the courts for an eviction process. Now, in 1998, the PI Act was signed into law in order to protect individuals, namely the vulnerable, from being kicked out if they couldn't, for whatever reason, afford to pay rent anymore. It was to protect them from being kicked out immediately and left on the streets. And while that's commendable, there's a lot of holes in the PI Act, and that's where nefarious people have gotten involved and really manipulated the system and even robbed those who are on the waiting list, those that have been displaced during the apartheid era and are on the waiting list for housing. When land grabs happen in South Africa, it seems that there's a common trend, not all the time, but most of the time. Anytime that there's land earmarked for housing, there's a land grab on it. Again, not all the time, but most of the time. And then again, you're robbing those that are waiting on the waiting list for housing.
Joe, what is the current on-the-ground situation at Tygerberg Raceway? What are you seeing there?
Well, right now it's just shacks, and living conditions are horrible. There was a video or a clip in the documentary that shows a man who's recording. He's standing basically in the middle of the raceway. You can see all the shacks, but there's water. That's probably almost ankle deep, or maybe a little bit higher than your ankle, and these shacks are submerged in this water. And it goes to what Chris was saying about the water level being too high. And it's horrible living conditions, really, it is. And JP Smith, the guy, one of the people I interviewed, who's the MMC for security, he mentions that, the EFF often says that a land grab is a win, and it's not, because you're condemning these people when these politicians, some of these politicians, endorse land grabs. They are condemning these individuals to a life of just horrible conditions. There's no sewage, there's no service delivery. A land grab, by definition, it's not planned. You can't, it's almost impossible afterwards to put the toilets in, to put the piping in, to put all the road infrastructure in. Once a land grab has happened, it's nearly impossible to help the people that have done it. And unfortunately, the nefarious individuals like the mafias, the shack farmers, the politicians, even some politicians, are condemning these people to a horrible, horrible situation.
Yeah. It's quite a serious one that you're tackling, Joe, but I'm just really interested in the end goal. What is the end goal with this level of storytelling? And I think also just with that interest, your interest in comedy and filmmaking, but also this tough, subject matter that you are moving through. What is the end goal for you? What would you like the end user to take with them as they check in with the story?
Yeah, I think the end goal would be to just expose the horrible way that the ANC has eroded property rights in South Africa. Everybody's concerned about the Expropriation Act, whether it's good, it's bad, noble, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's clear from this documentary and my research that the erosion of property rights has been happening since 1998 with this PI Act. And it puts South Africa in a very interesting situation, because the Expropriation Act says, that the government can take land without compensation or no compensation. And it gives a list of reasons as to what the conditions are for the expropriation without compensation, like under which reasons it can do that. But it also says not limited to these reasons, which is very, very alarming. And it uses terms like, in the public interest, which is very vague and can be for any reason. So the point of the documentary was, one, to tell the Tygerberg Raceway story, because that seems to be anytime someone talks about land grabs, you often see a meme of Tygerberg Raceway 2020 and then 2021. They show it's like before the invasion, then after the invasion. So it's quite a popular one on social media. They use that to show land invasions. I wanted to see, is it really a land invasion and what happened there? And that's exactly what I found out. So I wanted to tell the story of the raceway. That was the first point. And then through finding out everything that I found out, I thought, okay, well, the world needs to know about this. I just want the world to know about it.
Joe, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And obviously, people can check out this documentary on your YouTube platform, News Flash with Joe Emilio. The title is called Stolen Ground, the Tygerberg Raceway. The story, who's really behind the land grabs in South Africa. Joe, thank you so much for your time. It's 31 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African time. Let's head on over now to Fikile Lingwati for the final sports bulletin this afternoon on The Upside.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We start off with football news this hour. The Congolese Football Federation, FECAFOOT, has named Bethelemi Ngatsono as the head coach of Congo's A national team in a major technical overhaul as the country prepares for the 2024 African Nations Championship CHAN. Ngatsono's appointment marks a return to national duty for the seasoned tactician who previously led the senior Red Devils and now steps into a pivotal role as Congo eye their fifth appearance at the CHAN finals. He will be supported by assistant coach Cedric Nanitelamio, both of whom recently earned CAF A coaching licenses, aligning Congo's ambitions with the continental standards. In cricket news, South African men's cricket team has taken an expected 1-0 lead in a two-match test series against Zimbabwe. The Proteas beat their host by 328 runs at the Queen Sports Club in Bulawayo, wrapping up the match with a day and a half to spare. Zimbabwe, who has set a target of 537 for victory, resumed their second innings on 32 for 1 earlier today. Their assistants crumbled and they were bowled up 208. Wellington Masakadza made a defiant half-century, while captain Craig Irvine contributed 49 to the losing cause. Corbin Bosch, who scored a maiden Test century in South Africa's first innings, was also the Proteas' top performer with a ball in Zimbabwe's second innings. He took 5 for 43 in 12 overs. The second Test starts on Sunday and will also be played in Bulawayo. Now, rugby news. The Springboks made the journey from Cape Town to Johannesburg to begin their preparations for the opening match of the Castle Lager incoming series against Italy at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria on Saturday. The Boks sustained an injury to Jean Klein in the match against the Barbarians. It's a blow, but not as devastating as it could have been, because the coaching staff have been crafting a fluid succession plan to weather player injuries. Scrum guru Dan Human explains.
I'm not in the medical department yet. I'm a doctor, but a scrum doctor, not a medical doctor, so I'm getting there. But I'm not too sure what's happening exactly. But we're fortunate that we have numbers. We're fortunate we have guys that can play lock as well, like Kobus Wiese coming in as well. And I mean, like you all know, Peter Steff can always cover probably all the positions on the field for us.
And in Olympics, the South African National Olympic Body, SASCOC President Barry Hendricks has confirmed that South Africa's bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games has been put on hold. The National Olympic Body will instead shift its focus to bidding for smaller international events, including World Volleyball Championships, before preparing a bid for the 2040 Olympic Games. South Africa was among 11 countries, including Morocco and Egypt, that had expressed interest in hosting the 2036 Games. But Hendricks says they missed the deadline to submit the necessary bid documents to the IOC.
We've not been able to get through the ministry, we've not been able to get cabinet sanction. So we're going to put that on hold for now. We can look at 2040, but then also look at other events that we need to encourage international organizations to bring the events to South Africa. For example, we've spoken to, when we were in Lausanne, to World Volleyball. They want to bring their professional league here, as well as the international championships, but also the General Assembly.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwadi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Hawa wa Afrika Kusini wenye asili ya kizungu ambao wamepewa ukimbizi huko nchini Marekani. Je, nini chanzo cha wao kuomba ukimbizi nchini Marekani?
Wenyewe wajaomba ukimbizi. Kuna shirika fulani inaitwa AfriForum, shirika mbili za wazungu ambao wanatetea haki ya wazungu hapa, AfriForum na Solidarity. Hao walienda Marekani kufanya kampeni kusema kwamba wazungu wananyanyaswa hapa Afrika Kusini, na walivyofanya hiyo kampeni, serikali iweze kuwafuatilia kujua nini ambacho mnasema kwamba mnanyanyaswa.
Kuna namna ya wao kwamba wamepoteza uraia wa Afrika Kusini, na je, endapo Trump akamaliza muda wake madarakani, uhalali wao wa kuishi nchini Marekani ukoje?
Itakuwa vigumu, kifupi itakuwa vigumu wenyewe kupoteza uraia wao.
Darubini ya Afrika 11 kamili hadi 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
No matter where you are, Channel Africa is always with you.
Well, it's 36 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African time. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Upside this afternoon on Channel Africa, The African Perspective. What caught your eye is coming up next, but for now, let's get the final business news from Buntle Hedbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Tebogo, and good afternoon. In our top top business story at this hour. The United States Department of State says the 17th U.S.-Africa Business Summit held in Luanda, Angola last week yielded more than $2.5 billion in new deals and commitments between the U.S. and African partners. The summit attracted more than 2,700 U.S. and African public and private sector leaders. The department says the deals and commitments reinforce the U.S.'s prioritization of trade over aid and show the U.S.'s commitment to engaging Africans as equal partners in investment-driven growth. The third technical meeting of the G20 on the empowerment of women is underway at Kruger National Park in South Africa's Mpumalanga province. It's aimed at promoting women's participation in the economy and their representation in leadership, governance and decision-making. It also seeks to enhance women's ownership and control. Several G20 member states, along with invited countries, are participating in the 4-day engagement, which will conclude on Friday. Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga says women's contribution is hardly recognized.
The care economy is that economy that happens and is mainly done by women at home, taking care of children, taking care of sick family members, washing dishes, cleaning the house, etc., etc. It contributes a lot in the normal economy. You will not be here if there's no one who ensures that there's food in the house is clean, your dresses are ironed and washed. And therefore, behind this main economy, there is the care economy that is not recognized.
President of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, Zingiswa Losi, says it's time for South Africa to create and own a narrative as a country and ensure that every rand spent stays local. This as today marks the official launch of 2 new online platforms aimed at boosting the country's manufacturing and connecting buyers directly to homegrown products and producers. This initiative, Shop Proudly South African, is already active and offering more than 1,700 locally made items to consumers. This will allow South African-made goods to step into the digital spotlight with a little help from government. Losi says they support the initiative as organized labor.
It is great to see the fruition of what we fought for as organized labor. It is good for us to be part of this journey and see when government listens, we can be able to shift the narrative and also to make South Africa great. So we're here to give support to Proudly South Africa and also to say we're grateful to the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. Let's work together to build a better South Africa.
South Africa's manufacturing sector continues to show signs of strain. According to Absa Bank's Purchasing Managers Index, the headline PMI contracted for the 7th consecutive month. The index, which measures the health of the sector, declined by 1.6 points to 43.1 index points in May 2025. The decline in the Supplier Deliveries Index pushed the headline PMI lower. Notando Makudulela reports.
Absa says the manufacturing sector continued to suffer in May despite some flickers of activity and demand improvement, albeit at extremely low levels. However, the improvement in orders and activity provides some optimism for recovery. This is due to domestic demand recovering slightly as export sales continue to deteriorate at a rapid rate. At the same time, the index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months' time increased in May due to improved sentiment as global tariffs were suspended.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Secretary General Matthias Cormann says that it's crucial to develop stronger and coordinated international partnerships to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. He spoke at the second day of the 4th International Conference of Financing in Spain, where issues such as sustainable growth and climate change were addressed. Cormann further says that the OECD supports the greater mobilization of private finance.
In partnership with the United Nations and Convergence, our new private investment mobilization action plan will help achieve the private finance objectives that are outlined in the Compromiso de Sevilla. More broadly, the OECD is working to address barriers to scaling up private investment, including a lack of data leading to higher perceived investment risk in developing countries. For example, through the data analysis portal we are launching this year through our Africa Virtual Investment Platform.
Now for a look at our indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 537. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 21. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49. And in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 79. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 46. Russia, 78 ruble 16. India, it's 85 rupees 62. China, 7 yuan 16. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 74 cents. $1 is trading at 72 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading up $3,348 and platinum at $1,352 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.76 a barrel. And those are your business news. I'll be back with the indicators in the next hour. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hetbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
África. Conhece o Ntivani?
Claro que sou eu.
Ntivani é o amante da música de corpo e alma.
Eu amo música africana.
Ele aprecia todos os tipos de melodias e passa os seus dias a ouvir a Channel Africa. Okay. Adivinha só, a Channel Africa quer ajudar o Ntivani e os amantes da música em todo o lado a descobrir ainda mais música incrível. Por isso, a Channel Africa está a convocar artistas africanos a submeterem as suas músicas. Músicos, lembrem-se de nos dar todas as informações relevantes no music@channelafrica.co.za. As submissões são a vossa oportunidade de ser ouvidos, mas não garantem inclusão na lista. Todas as submissões serão cuidadosamente analisadas para verificar se cumprem os requisitos da nossa estação. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Whatever you want to hear about today's talk, you can get it on the upside.
So many reasons why I want it for you, my love. Now you want to retire with my love. See all the little good things you do, they make me no. This distance is taking a hold of me for sure. Baby, come. I'm about to make me there. Girl, I want to make you. I want to make you. Should be not this kind of things where they make man see ya. And me, I understand, so your dad know like me. See me, I won't make you know, say me there for you, gotta. And if not the price be that, I feel like to see ya. I never traded you for nothing. This love will make me the jack machine. Without you, I know free to love. Without you, I'm not gonna tell me with this all bingo. I never traded you, baby. This love will make me the star. No. I'm not gonna tell me what's up, bingo.
Africa is a story, a living, breathing.
Baby, I feel like making you. Oh, baby, oh, no.
Kulosa. Oxlade, 46 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African Time. This is still The Upside on Channel Africa with me, Tebogo Lekhuleni, and Mmatsheko Mosito.
Oh, thank you, my hype man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Give me your what's it? What do they call
my
it?
PayPal.
Your PayPal, man.
Well,
so I
give you
can
my email,
throw
yes.
something in there. Oh my goodness
me! What a show it's been so far.
Yes.
It's your first day as the dynamic duo. We are now we must find a different way. It's not dynamic duo.
But something along those lines.
Along those lines, phenomenal duo. I don't know. We'll find a nice fancy way.
We're going to find something amazing. Right. And as we take this journey with you, we are grateful that you're tuning in on the African region. This is The Upside, as Tebogo has mentioned. So what caught your eye? Let us know what caught your eye. There is so much happening in the world on a daily basis. So much to talk about, and it doesn't have to be out there. It could be just in your immediate space. What are your observations? What are you seeing? What would you like to tell us, share with us? Please tell us what caught your eye. Gentlemen, go first in this case.
Listen, I tell you what, I will do what caught my eye, my proper one, right after we take a break. But I will start by saying it's an extra what caught my eye. It's an extra one.
Okay.
Guys, electricity is expensive these days. I don't know what happened.
Winter happened. That's what happened.
Is it the winter? Is it really? I think it's yes, because we've got the geysers on, we've got the heaters on. Someone was complaining on TikTok saying, but the amount of money I've spent on electricity over this past month, it's very suspect. It's very suspicious. Electricity is getting very expensive. So I don't think they've increased the rates there when it comes to electricity. I just think our consumption is a lot more now because it's winter. You've got your bed blanket. What is that? Hot blanket or whatever it's called.
I was about to say the modern human is just, I don't know what it is. I mean, you've got to deal with the uncomfortability of being just a little bit cold, but we don't want that inconvenience. So electric blankets are on. Oil heaters are on, gas heaters are on, so that's an additional cost.
Yep.
The stove is on because you're cooking beans for 6 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on and all of that needs electricity. So we only have ourselves to blame.
So let us know. let us know, is electricity actually more expensive, and are you able to actually prove that it is more expensive? Can you show us a receipt and say this kilowatt was 10 rand last month and this month is 15 rand? Are you able to prove to us that it is expensive, or are we just consuming more electricity? Let us know on our WhatsApp line. Is +27 63406 9126, or alternatively on our TikTok account, which is at Channel Africa 1. It's 10 minutes before 4 p.m. Central African Time. When we get back, we'll get into what caught our eyes.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Stella Longwe. Pamalonje.
Palitusokoma pano pamalonje kumvera nyimbo za mu Africa kusangalala kupeza moyo akuti kumva moyo kuti kuyenda bwino pano pamalonje ndiyetu apa tili ndikatswiri oyimba ameneyu ndikatswiri wa dziko la Malawi amene akukhala mdziko la South Africa ndipo amayimba amene akuti ndi Big Nick Malawi. Yatusati kuti kodi moyo wanu woyimba ukuyenda bwanji mu Johannesburg?
Moyo woyimba ukuyenda bwinobwino kwambiri, chiliyonse chikutheka ndithu bwinobwino.
Ayi aziwoneka chiliyonse chikutheka mofa magrasi anu apa mwaka akuti kumenya yonse aziwoneka zoti azikutheka ndithu mu Johannesburg.
Malonje pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe.
Fresh and exciting. The Upside, hooking you up with today's news from the African perspective.
Fresh and exciting indeed. It's 9 minutes before 4 p.m. Central African Time, and it's fresh because we've got a fresh new voice on the show, on The Upside. Her name is Mmatsheko Mosito.
I am so happy to be here. Just had to declare that.
It's time for what caught your eye.
Tell us.
Do you want me to start?
Please go first. Gentlemen first this time around.
So, a professor by the name of Jan Walters Kruger has filed a case against the University of South Africa. Why? Because he was, according to him, because he was dismissed after he reached the retirement age of 65, of which he thinks was a bit unlawful. So this senior professor is seeking reinstatement at 72 years of age, and he sues the university for the mandatory retirement at 65. So his complaint is that at the age of 65, he was having other conversations with the then leaders or someone very close to the leadership at the time. And this person promised and said to him, no, don't worry. You have a unique set of skills. We can't get rid of you. So even if you get to the age of the retirement age of 65, don't worry. You're not going anywhere. This person does not feature in this case because he didn't come to the party or didn't come to testify during the court proceedings. And then his other argument was that at the university, there are other people who work beyond the age of 65. They are 72-year-olds, 82-year-olds, whatever the case may be. And the university came back and said, no, these people are there on a special contractual basis, special projects. They're here to lecture, whatever the case may be. It's an independent contract. It's a different contract to the employment contract.
Right.
Suffice to say, he lost this case against the university to try and have him reinstated or have him be compensated for 24 months because he felt like he was still able to work and he didn't want to retire at 65. But the law is the law, my good sir. If at 65, you get to 65, you retire. But my question is 65 the age where we need to, do we need to revise that age, the retirement age? Considering the fact that we have leaders on the African continent leading entire countries well beyond the age of 65.
At 107, yes. Yes.
So do we need to revisit that and change it? Because if the leaders are older than 65, what about the working class? Can that not be altered? So and also now people are living slightly longer and they're more active at 65. Some people still feel energetic and they're still able to get work done. What are your sentiments on whether or not that retirement age should change?
Look, I think life begins at 65. No, I'm just kidding.
65.
But look, yes, there's the legalities around systems kicking people out at a certain age so that you can prepare for your golden years and retire and all of that.
Yeah.
But I actually want to support your argument, not only in the fact that people are getting younger.
Yeah.
And feeling more energetic at that age. So they need to be given the autonomy to choose for themselves. Because your 65 is different to Sipo's 65.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? But genetics, lifestyle, all of that stuff comes into play. But also there's the argument of the world of work shifting and changing every 3.5 months. Okay? There's artificial intelligence. There's all kinds of things that are filtering into the world of work that is changing and shaping and shifting the world of work. So with all those considerations, perhaps we should have a look at revising when the system should kick me out. Because if 100%. I'm fit and physical, honey, at 65,
you're not going anywhere.
I am not going anywhere.
It should be an option. It should be an option then.
Yes.
And it should be supported by the medical records and the university or whoever is employing you for them to prove and say, yeah, actually, if you are saying you're fit, we can also see through the blood works and what that you are fit and your lifestyle allows you to carry on. So let's allow you to carry on. So let's not enforce it. What do you think? Let us know on our TikTok account at Channel Africa 1. What caught your eye before we wrap up the show?
Listen, what caught my eye is the space of South African politics. Okay, so just a quick pithy story around the opposition party in South Africa, the Democratic Alliance. So they threw a poll on the internet. I think it was less than 24 hours ago. And here's the poll. What's your take on the city of Tshwane's current state? Option for the poll: things are going well. ANC coalition is failing, the ANC being the ruling party at the moment. And the third option is DA must take over Tshwane. And very quickly, the poll was sitting at 79% for, no, don't you worry yourself. Things are going pretty well. So immediately when that response came through with 79% of people saying, you know what, DA, please grab a chair, take a seat. Everything is fine. You need not bother yourself. They removed the tweet. They removed the poll. But of course, this is now social media and technology. Screen grabs came through. But for me, what really caught my eye is how the space of government is using social media. We are in the middle of what is known as a social media summit. I think it's taking place at one of our universities here in Johannesburg, the University of Johannesburg, actually. This summit started on the 30th and it ends today. And it really is about interrogating communication and how to navigate digital communication in politics and in government. You know, a very necessary summit, I think, because we can avoid things like, let's put up a poll that's uninformed, that has no backup, that has no spinning, and then when we don't get the response that we want, we delete the post.
They should have just kept it. They should have just kept it. They wish they could have spun it around and had fun with it. But removing it now makes us question your transparency as the DA. What the DA did there is basically the typical Instagram poster. They only post the good stuff. They don't post the ugly, the process. They only want the good stuff. And they hid away, they shied away from addressing it in a positive and a creative way. I feel they could have handled it a bit differently.
Exactly. So I think this is lesson 101 for spaces of governance, to really look at how they use social media in this day and age, with everything that's happening, and with human smartness and with artificial intelligence. How can you use it to your advantage? And everybody knows it's not easy to run a country, okay? So please put your big boy pants on and take it.
100%.
Yeah, take
100%.
it.
All right, it's less than a minute to go before we have to hand over to the one and only Tami Ngubeni, Africa in Business, coming up next. Good afternoon to you, ma'am. How are you doing?
Oh, man, by His grace. How are you today?
Fantastic. Did you see our new co-host, our new upside down Mmatsheko? Oh,
hello.
Exciting time.
Thank you, Queen of Business. What's coming up after the 4 p.m. news bulletin?
Well, we're going to be focusing on the South African Revenue Service, SARS. They're saying the country has recorded a preliminary trade balance surplus of $1.2 billion. That's in the month of May. We'll be talking to trade analyst Viwe Njongwana regarding the dynamics around that, and also a look at Ghana. There's some general sentiment there that Chinese nationals are to blame for the problem of illegal gold mining. And we'll be talking to an organization called Fight Against Galamsey. That's what they call it. Illegal mining. Now we call it Amazamazama. Bona, they call it Galamsey, gold mining, illegal gold mining. So that's just part of what we've got in store for you this afternoon.
All right. That's Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni. As for me and the lovely Mmatsheko Mosito, first day, happy?
Listen, happy days. I am looking forward to the journey. It was wonderful. And as we continue to, of course, celebrate Ghanaian independence, we wish our neighboring country all the best as they reflect, since the year 1960 when they got their independence. But it's 4 p.m. We're back again tomorrow. You excited for tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's hand over the mic to Jwalani Tulongwepe, who's got the latest news. It's 4 p.m. Central African time.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Tebogo. Top stories. The United Nations